Welcome back to Money Talk Radio. I'm Ellis Martin. In this segment, we speak with Frank Callaghan, President and CEO of Golden Cariboo Resources, trading on the CSE as GCC and in the U.S. on the OTC as GCCFF. The company's Quesnelle gold quartz mine property is located in central British Columbia, near the town of Hixon, which sits about 55 kilometers south of Prince George and about 50 kilometers north of Quesnel. For the past 4 years, Golden Cariboo Resources has been consolidating this project and is now the only public company other than Osisko Development Corp to solely own property in this region. In terms of the geography, it is best described as a bookshelf, where on one end of the bookshelf, Osisko Development Corp's project is headed into production. At the other end sits Golden Cariboo Resources' Quesnelle gold quartz mine property in very similar rocks with access to virtually all of the same infrastructure and resources. The 3,814 hectare property comprises 21 contiguous mineral tenures and is accessible year-round via Forest Service roads, leaving Highway 97 near the community of Hixon, British Columbia. The property was acquired by Golden Cariboo in 2019 and is surrounded to the north, south, and west by Barkerville Gold Mines, a wholly owned subsidiary of Osisko Development Corp. Mr. Callaghan has served as President and CEO and been on the boards of numerous public companies in his progressive career in the BC Yukon mining industry, spanning over 30 years. His focus has been in the Goldbridge, Bralorne, Goldstream, Revelstoke, Wells, Barkerville, and Atlin gold camps, including 20 years in the Smithers, copper, silver, gold, and Keno Hill, silver, lead, zinc camps, culminating in bringing 2 gold mines into production. Mr. Callaghan is originally responsible for the strategic plan leading to the discovery, financing, and initial feasibility work for Osisko Development Corp's Cariboo Gold Project. Mr. Callaghan began assembling the Cariboo Gold Project near Wells in central BC in 1994, made the original Bonanza Ledge Discovery in 2000, processed a 10,000-ton bulk sample in 2004 at the Mount Polley Mine, completed approximately 150,000 meters of drilling, which was subsequently twinned and expanded upon by Osisko to achieve similar results. Frank, welcome to the program. It's great to visit with you today, my old friend.
Been a while. Good to hear your voice, Ellis.
And I say old friend because we've known each other well over 20 years, back when you had Barkerville in the same area surrounding your property at Golden Cariboo, and you did very nicely for your shareholders, which includes you. Let's talk about the acquisition that Osisko did with Barkerville and then move on to Golden Cariboo. Give some background to our audience.
Sure. Well, we started working up in that camp in 1994. In 2000, we made a discovery where we found gold in a rock formation that hadn't been recognized as being gold-bearing before. That would turn into a significant discovery whereby 14 years later, we would put that into production. So that was our first discovery that we put into production. Earlier than that, in 2010, we purchased the QR mine and mill. That was in receivership, and we put that back into production. It was a 900-ton-a-day facility. So we had 2 mines going simultaneously in gold production. And then Osisko Royalties came and purchased the company for some $330 million. They would then spin that out into a new company called Osisko Development Corp. And they in turn spent some north of $600 million on confirming the amount of ounces that we had identified. So they pegged it at 6 million ounces was the resource and reserve as it sits today. And that'll start full production, doing some 160,000 ounces a year, starting in the 3rd quarter of this year. So it's very profitable. The shareholders of Barkerville would receive an Osisko royalty share that was then trading at $14, currently trading above $22. And I believe that they're getting a 68-cent a share dividend. All the Barkerville shareholders, not only did they get a portion of an Osisko share, but they're currently getting a 68-cent a share dividend, which was announced yesterday.
As I said, you've done very well for your shareholders. Let's talk about Golden Cariboo. How long have you had that property? Why did you come out of retirement? I guess for people our age, Frank, we get restless every now and then, and if you see a good deal, you might as well make it happen and make it happen for new shareholders. Let's get some history on Golden Cariboo, which is surrounded essentially by Osisko, formerly Barkerville, right now.
That's correct. So one of my staff members, one of the geologists, she had staked some property up in about 70 kilometers north of the town of Wells in Barkerville. She was quite keen on this project. It goes back to the 1865 when it first went into production. It was one of the very first 3 companies in British Columbia to actually be incorporated, one of the first 5 companies to actually sink a shaft. There's 101 creeks from the town of Likely up to the town of Hixon that stretches 90 kilometers long, and they've got a historic production of 101 creeks have produced placer gold. So this is one of the bookends of where we are here. And the interesting thing about it is that it's on a greenstone contact. And back in 1999, I was visited by a fellow by the name of Bob Middleton, who's since passed on, but he was looking at the rocks when we were drilling the Bonanza Ledge Discovery. And he said, you know, Frank, these rocks are the same rocks that we see up in between Timmins and Val-d'Or. And the production there has been 300 million ounces of gold, and they're still in production. You know, these rocks are younger. You just keep at this, and I think you're going to find something. That was in September of 99. In the spring of 2000, we would make this discovery. But at the end of that day, back in 1999, he's going, so where's the greenstone contact? And I'm going, geez, I don't have a clue what you're talking about. He says, well, all the great mines in the whole world, and including between Val-d'Or and Timmins, and they're all on a greenstone contact. And you got to figure out where that greenstone contact is. Fast forward to 2016, and Angie sends me this report to read that she'd been compiling all of the information out of the museum in Quesnel. And in it, and she's done a summary report, she sent it to me to read, and I'm reading the introduction on it, and she says, and in 1865, the old timers sunk a shaft on a greenstone contact. And I'm going, that's where it is. Well, so she would continue working on it. She approached me to buy it. I bought it off of her privately. We worked it for about 3 or 4 years. And I said, you know, this is good enough. Why don't we just put it in a public company, one of the companies that we had on the shelf. We put it into there in 2019. We would continue working it. I'd grub stake the company to keep going. And then in January of this year, we got some results back from a hole that we drilled in 2023. And in it, we pulled some north of 30 meters. I think all in all, it turned out to be some 41 meters of 1.5 grams. Thereabouts, just almost 1.5 grams of gold. And I'm going, okay, so this is what it's all about. And that grade is the largest mine in Canada that Osisko Royalties, actually the owner, Sean Rusin, founded, but they've actually have an NSR on. And that mine is the largest mine in Canada. They're mining 60,000 tons of ore a day, 60,000 tons. And it's the highest producer, but the grade of it is 0.9 of a gram. That similar style. The Malartic mine is on a greenstone contact. That whole belt between Timmins and Val-d'Or is on a greenstone contact. And all of the really great mines in the whole world are on a greenstone contact. And this is similar rocks, similar geology. It's younger, but that doesn't mean anything, as Bob Middleton mentioned. And we're drilling, and these widths that we're pulling up and grade is what we expect. And we expect to see an awful lot more of it, and larger grades going forward. I think you've shown some of the intercepts in your latest news release, if I'm not correct. If not your latest, then the one just before that, which is on your website, goldencariboo.com, and that's caribou with 2 O's at the end of that word. It's pretty impressive. Now, how far down have you drilled? And I understand the value and the grade that you just mentioned, but of course I'm thinking that if you want to compare it to Val-d'Or, the Abitibi, or Timmins or something like that, there might be a mother lode somewhere to be uncovered, especially if you have all that alluvial, all that placer. You're quite right. The placers definitely come from somewhere, usually upstream. We're sort of sitting in a valley. This contact is actually in a valley. We've traced it in 2 parallel trends. One's 3.5 kilometers long. The other's a little bit over 4 kilometers long. And we're testing it to depths. We're going quite deep on it. This morning's drilling, they're below 1,000 feet or in excess of 30 odd meters. And we're going to continue to go. I hope to have this one go to somewhere around the 500 meter, 1,500 foot intercept is where we're trying to get to on this. And possibly even a little deeper. This is completely untested ground. And when you look at big tonnage projects, you need this to be big and deep. And this is showing all the wherewithal of doing that. And we would have shut the drill down sooner had we run out of what we were looking for, but it looks like we're still sort of in it, so we're carrying on. What can we expect to see over the next year or so? And what is your exit strategy? I mean, it appears to be obvious to me, but I don't want to assume anything, so I'm just going to ask you directly, what's the plan? I said I'd do this for 3 years. This will be the 3rd mine that I'd like to sort of see get developed. I won't be around for the whole thing. I'll put a good 3 years into this one. The idea is to get taken out. Like you mentioned earlier, Osisko Development has surrounded us on 3 sides. They're a natural suitor for the company. They just don't need to do all the legwork. The project that they have is they've referred to it as a beachhead. They're in the middle of the property. They're some 70 kilometers to the south of where we are. And laterally, we're not on the same trend. We're on a parallel trend. This is really very exciting. This is a completely new discovery. This has never been recognized before. And like what we made the discovery back in 2000, the same team, the very same team that found the Bonanza Ledge and put 2 mines into production already, is now working on a 3rd. And we think we're in the right rocks. We found gold in a rock formation, again, that hasn't been recognized as being gold bearing before, on a parallel trend. It's not even on the same trend. Most important.
Clearly, the equities with regard to gold have not caught up with the price of gold. What is the share structure of the company? Because it certainly seems to me, at several glances here, that it might be an opportunity.
The last company, we raised in excess of $180 million that we spent on the project. We were taken out for $330 million. We started the project, I'm going to suggest, when I first started with Barkerville up in that camp under a different label. It's called Wayside Gold Mine. It merged a number of other projects together to be rebranded as Barkerville. But we had probably about a $20 million market cap. Times have changed. Currently, we have a $12 million market cap. We just completed a financing in the month of March. Middle of March. That would be enough to get the project up and started and running. I went on to say we were taken out for $330 million, but after that, the company that took us over spent an additional $600 million. So the total amount of money that's spent on that project since we've left is almost $1 billion. So this is just really early in the game. This, I think, has the potential to be a very large deposit. The area that we were working before was a 6-kilometer long project, and this is what we're on right now, is somewhere between 3.5 and to 4 kilometers, 2 parallel trends. So there's lots of room for growth. The share price is really very competitive. You know what, like I like to say, is we priced it so everybody can afford it. It's trading in the 30-cent range. I believe that it possibly has the potential to go higher than that. The market cap itself, as I mentioned, is only $12 million. And the last company we had, we were taken out for $330 million. There's lots of room for growth.
Frank, I'm very excited to be able to interview you today and have you on the program. Looks like a very exciting opportunity possibly for investors listening to the program. I'm certainly going to take a closer look at it. Thank you so much for joining me today on the program, old friend.
Good to see you again, and thank you for having me. It really, truly is. And I encourage your listeners to, if they have any questions, please call the office. Happy to share all of the information that we can share with you. And it's a great story to be part of, and it's just starting. We've only been on the project now for a month.
I've been speaking with Frank Callaghan, President and CEO of Golden Cariboo Resources, trading on the CSE as GCC and of the U.S. on the OTC as GCCFF. Learn more about the company by going to goldencariboo.com. For Money Talk Radio, I'm Ellis Martin.